Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Om Vishnupadaya Gaura Prashtaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshivati Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamini Vancha Kalpatrubhascha Kripa Sindhubhevcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Rama Hare Hare. So this morning we'll be immersing ourselves in the bhajan that's manifest from the heart of Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj. Kothai Go Premamoyi Radhe Radhe. And as we see with all our Vaishnav, Sri Rupanuga, Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas, there is this constant mood of glorifying each other. So this bhajan that has manifest from Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj's heart is about the life goal of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. And we've heard so many times from Srila Gurudev. I know Maharaj, you will speak about the life of Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, but we've heard so much about like his condition of existence in this realm, and how he preferred the stench of the latrine over any of the luxuries or so-called luxuries of this material realm. But by immersing himself and being so detached, this beautiful bhajan manifests, and it's imploring Srimati Radhika to give her darshan and to save his life. Srila Gurudev always gave us direction to follow our guardians of devotion, follow their bhajan, follow their mood, follow their words even. And while there isn't always adequate translation into the English language, this bhajan, we can know that when we sing in this Bengali bhasha, or when we sing in Sanskrit language, it's a dynamic language, it's not static, and every word, like even the word amorous pastime or the phrase amorous pastime, there's a huge deluge of pastimes attached to that anyone you can be jumped into, and you could be carried to this mood of bhakti, this mood of humility. So I'm praying that just by hearing the words of Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, and his mood of supplication to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, his glorification of how Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is searching out Sri Radha, Srimati Radhika in all places of Braj Mandal. I'm hoping that we all can follow in their footsteps, that Srila Gurudev guides us to follow in his footsteps. Kothai go prema mohi Radhe Radhe O kothai go prema mohi Radhe 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 go jai Radhe 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 go jai Radhe Radhe কোথায় গো প্রেম মোহি রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেম মোহি রাধে রাধে দেখা দিয়া প্রাণ রাখো রাধে রাধে দেখা দিও প্রাণ রাখো রাধে রাধে তোমায় গঙ্গা তোমায় ডাকে রাধে রাধে তোমায় গঙ্গা তোমায় রাখে রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে বৃন্দাবন বিলাসিনী রাধে 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 বৃন্দাবন বিলাসিনী রাধে রাধে কানো মান মোহিনী রাধে 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 কানো মান মোহিনী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে অষ্ট সখী শ্রীরামণি রাধে রাধে অষ্ট সখী শিরোমণি রাধে রাধে বৃষভানুনন্দিনী রাধে রাধে বৃষভানুনন্দিনী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে নিয়ম করে সদাই রাখে রাধে রাধে গোসাই নিয়ম করে সদাই রাখে রাধে 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 কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে एक बार के कास के सीगाते अबादा के बमसी बाते एक बार के सीगाते अबादा के बमसी बाते राधे 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 बोलो राधे राधे কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে एक पर्दा के निधुवने अबरदा के कुंज बने, एक पर्दा के निधुवने अबरदा के कुंज बने। राधे 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 कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे एक पर्दा के राधा कुंडे अबरदा की श्यामा कुंडे, एक पर्दा की राधा कुंडे अबरदा की श्यामा कुंडे। राधे 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 बोलो राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे एक पर्दा के कुसुम बने अबरदा के गोवर्धन, एक पर्दा के कुसुम बने अबरदा के गोवर्धन। राधे 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 कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे एक पर्दा की ताला बने अबरदा की तामल बने, एक पर्दा की ताला बने अबरदा की तामल बने। राधे राधे बोलो राधे राधे श्री राधे 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 कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे तो मले बस दिए गाय गछे दुलाय गदगद जाए, मले बस दिए गाय गछे दुलाय गदगद जाए। राधे 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 कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे मुखे राधे राधा बोले बसन नयनेर जले, मुखे राधा राधा बोले बसे नयनेर जले। राधे 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 श्री राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे वृंदावन कुली कुली तेरे बेरा राधा बोली, वृंदावन कुली कुली तेरे बेरा राधा बोली। राधे 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 श्री राधे 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 कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे कोथाई गो प्रेममय। राधे राधे चौपन रात्रि दिने जने नारदा गोविंद बीने, चौपन रात्रि दिने जने नारदा गोविंद बीने। राधे 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 श्री राधे राधे কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে চারিদণ্ড সুতি থাকে স্বপনে রাধা গোবিন্দ দেখে চারিদণ্ড সুতি থাকে স্বপনে রাধা গোবিন্দ দেখে রাধে 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 শ্রী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে 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 গো জয় রাধে 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 গো জয় রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে কোথায় গো প্রেমময়ী রাধে রাধে জয় রাধে জয় রাধে জয় রাধে জয় শ্রী রাধে জয় কৃষ্ণ জয় কৃষ্ণ জয় কৃষ্ণ জয় শ্রী কৃষ্ণ জয় রাধে 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 जय जय श्री राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे शिला गौरा किशोर शिला गौरा किशोर गौरा किशोर शिला गौरा किशोर शिला गौरा किशोर शिला गौरा किशोर गौरा किशोर शिला गौरा किशोर जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद गुरु परंपरा 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 निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
Jai 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 Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Radhaman Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Shri Radha Madan Mohan Radha Govinda Radha Gopinath Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Padasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Raj Ki Jai Jai Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tat Sat Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Kesha Goswami Raj Ki Jai. Jai Nitilita Bhavishta Om Vishnupad Asto Tat Sat Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Mahabhagavad Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sachitananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Gauraviranta Charja Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Traya Ki Jai. Shri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhakta Das Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Roy Ramananda Adi Gaura Parshavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Shaharas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Zigaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Antardeep Mayapur Sri Mantardeep Kodumadeep Madhudeep Koladeep Rudadeep Janradeep Modadumadeep Rudadeep Amakashinavadeep Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gogovardhan Dvarasvanatmaka Shri Bhaj Mandal Ki Jai. Shri Bhadravan Bandiravan Bayavan Lohavan Mahavan Madhuvan Talavan Kamudavan Bahulavan Brindavan Kandiravan Kamyavan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Nandini Shrimati Radharani Ki Jai. Srimati Lalita, Srimati Vishaka, Adi Astasaki Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Manjari, Shri Dati Manjari, Adi Manjari Vrinda Ki Jai, Srimati Purnamasi Devi Ki Jai, Srimati Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Gopi Swam Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Das Babaji, Goswami Maharaj, Tirubhav Titi Mahamahotsav Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Daiyta, Shri Bhakti Daiyta Goswami Maharaj, Avibhav Titi Mahamahotsav Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari 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 Bol.
अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालय कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। वञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासुदेव श्री गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So first we're offering my unlimited koti koti dandavat pranam unto the dust of the lotus feet of my Diksha Gurudev Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupada Sutra Satashishman to the Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj, and the same unlimited koti koti dandavat pranam unto my Harinam Gurudev Nityalila Pravishtam Vishnupad Astotra Satashishman to the Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and to all the Vaishnavas who are, were, and will be, and unto Sripad Bhaktivedanta Vaikhanas Maharaj, unto Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, and unto all of the Vaishnavas present here, my Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to day 26 of our virtual parikrama. We're very fortunate to again be continuing on such an auspicious day. Today is the Shuddha Kadashi, it's Uttana Kadashi. Today also begins Bhishma Panchak, which is the last 5 days of our parikrama. And also it is the wonderful Tirubhav Mahamahotsav of Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, the Gurudev of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and also the glorious Avirbhav Titi Mahamahotsav of Srila Bhakti Daiyta Madhav Goswami Maharaj. We began Kartik with the, I believe, disappearance of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Kesha Goswami Maharaj, and now we are ending our series with another glorious Acharya. So I believe Sripad Bhaktivedanta Vaikhanas Maharaj will speak first on Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji, And then Sripad Tridandi Maharaj will speak on Srila Bhakti Daiyta Madhav Goswami Maharaj. So please, Maharaj, your 30 minutes begins. Hare Krishna.
All right. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuna Militanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Shri Radha Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Iti Namine Aldaya Madhya Ganashta Yuktam by, oh no, oh my God.
Varam Varenyam Purusham.
Yeah, I know, wait. I'm so absorbed, I've been like, anyway. Adaya Madhya Ganashta Yuktam, Varanyam Purusham Mahantam, Narayanam Tam Shirasanamami. Very appropriate. I've been reading this biography of Gaura Kishor Babaji Maharaj and all these subtle instructions about the various impurities and hypocrisies and how these anarthas manifest in our heart and we hide them in so many ways and the necessity for absolute dependence and humility. So very appropriately, while offering obeisances, apparently so-called offering obeisances, the pranam mantra just flies out of my head to show me what a fool I am, Anyway, thank you, Didi. So,
Maharaj is very quiet today, your voice.
is it?
Is anybody else experiencing that?
I hear Maharaji, but I also have my headphones.
Yeah, it's very low.
Very low, yeah.
Well, I don't know what to do. Let me check the sound. I think it's all.
Mic closer. Can the mic go closer? It's your computer, right?
Yeah, the thing is today, here I'm putting it really close. I'm using a book, and so I need to have a place to put it. Anyway, Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaya Rupanuga Vairagya
Vipralamba Rasambodhe.
Vipralamba Rasambodhe Padambu Jaya Te Namaha. Unrehearsed. Anyway, this is good. Thank you, my beloved guardians, for crushing me in this way. So we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved gurus, unto all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. This is a very special day. It's the last 5 days of the Parikram. So we're begging our Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Gurudev, please allow us to offer some glorification, some appropriate remembrance, some way in which we can actually take genuine shelter of your lotus feet. We've always heard that these last 5 days, that if you can't do all of Chaturmasya, then you do the last month very strictly. And if you go to the Parikram in Vrindavan, you make your best effort. But somehow or other, if you can't go on that entire Parikram, at least make the last 5 days, these Bhishma Panchak, go there for that with intensity and determination. And I can't think of a more appropriate way to meditate on how to do the Parikram and our bhajan in general than reading about the life and teachings of Sri Gaura Kishor Babaji Maharaj. There's this book that was printed in 1990. Oh, it's showing backwards. It says Babaji Maharaj. It's biographies of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj and Gaura Kishor Babaji Maharaj. And the author, Karnamrita Das, is crediting for the biography of Gaura Kishoras Babaji Maharaj, articles were written by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada himself in his magazine. What was it called? Toshani, the magazine started by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then which he continued. So after the disappearance of Gaura Kishoras Babaji Maharaj, he began Vaishnava Toshani. He began writing articles about him. And then these were collected, and the author found them in the Devananda Gaudiya Math. I believe the author is my godbrother, because he's also writing and quoting R. Srila Prabhupada very much in his own introduction, explaining about the nature of Gaura Kishoras Babaji Maharaj and the nature of real devotion.
Rupa Pillai.
No, Karnamrita Das.
Oh.
Karnamrita Das. And then he was living in Mississippi. His name was, anyway, something, Soul. His last name was Soul. So reading this was rather extraordinary, humbling, and daunting, because you really have to contemplate deeply what he's saying. His instructions appear to be so uncompromising and strict, almost like we don't hear generally from our own spiritual masters, because our spiritual masters, they are trying to accommodate, at least certainly in my case, people that are so far from having genuine qualification. And yet, Gaura Kishoras Babaji Maharaj, he was living in Navadvip in the last part of his life. And he was living as a Bhajananandi. There's Bhajananandis and Goshtanandis. These are two kinds of Mahabhagavats. And the Goshtanandi, which characterizes the majority of our acharyas, they are preachers. They're Mahabhagavats who act on the platform of Madhyam to interact and relate and reach out to people in general. And what that means, acting on the Madhyam platform, they act in such a way that ordinary people can at least relate and understand. They will see them as great devotees, but they don't generally show, they're not living, at least to our eyes, in the internal world, right? But the Bhajananandis, they are constantly absorbed in the internal meditation, the internal Leela of Radha and Krishna, or Mahaprabhu. And so sometimes the way they interact is so extraordinary and so different than what we know and what we can understand. And so it can be greatly perplexing. And during the time of Babaji Maharaj, as well as the current time, there are many people who adopt the outward appearance of a Babaji. They take the Babaji initiation, which means that now you are dedicated full-time to the practice of hearing, chanting, perhaps studying, but no connection with the outside world, completely dependent internally on Radha and Krishna, not caring for one's own maintenance or anything, right? But there are many people who adopt that who are still filled with anarthas. To be Babaji in the genuine sense means to be absorbed on the level of Bhav Bhakti. You read in Jaiva Dharma how Vijay Kumar accepted that role as Babaji very late, much later in life. And then in his last days, how he actually lived in Jagannath Puri, just in the way that we just alluded to. Whereas Brajanath, who was also highly advanced, also had come to the level of Bhav Bhakti, was instructed, being younger, to go back to Navadvip and engage in householder life, perform his bhajan very strictly, right? But to practice appropriately for the example of people in general, right? And to set the example of behaving perfectly within Varnashram, but according to the inter-tenets of Vaishnav conduct and Vaishnav aspirations, right? So when we read about the life of Gaura Kishoras Babaji, when he's in Navadvip, his teachings, his pastimes, he is showing the singular focus, practice, and mentality of a perfected soul with no anartha, no outside, no anyabilash, no separate interest. This was what he was getting across. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada had the opportunity to associate with him because of his close relationship with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaura Kishor Das Babaji's close relationship. He was, where did it says in the beginning where he was born and raised. He started his life out as a householder. He came from, it appears to be a Vaishya family. And in his early life was married and engaged in grain business, and buying and selling apparently. And he was married, but fairly early on, his wife left this world. It said he was engaged in household life maybe up to 20 years, but that means from a young teenager, he was doing business with his family, and they get married very early in India. So then after that, he went to Vrindavan and studied and took instruction from very high-class Babajis, like Bhagwat Maharaj, Bhagwat Babaji Maharaj. I think he had association with, Jagannath Das Babaji and that line, and was highly, highly regarded by that collection of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And that group were the ones that had the connection with the more ancient Gaudiya Vaishnavas, from the time of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhusan. They were in the early 1700s, and Jagannath Das Babaji, he was in the middle 1700s all the way almost into the early 20th century. So Gaura Kishor Das Babaji was connected with him, as was Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and that was the link between those Babajis who were preserving the very deep teachings of our line, but within their hearts, and within those who were practicing on that very high level. So Gaura Kishor Das Babaji was like that. And his later years, after 25, 30 years in Vrindavan, he was instructed to go to Navadvip, right? I believe by his Babaji guru, Bhagavat Maharaj, maybe Jagannath Das Babaji. Anyway, he went to Navadvip, and there he had the opportunity to associate with Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and these two were kindred spirits. And ironically, he saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur as his Shiksha guru, but it stated that Bhaktivinoda Thakur took Babaji initiation from Gaura Kishor Das Babaji after he had full-time retired at Svananda Sukhada Kunj, right, for doing his own deep bhajan. But in any case, Gaura Kishor Das Babaji liked to go and hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his discourses on the Bhagavatam, and so many others. And in the Jaiva Dharma, we get stories of how the Babajis, the highly advanced Babajis, would come together and discuss very high-level topics, right? And you have to think that that was very much similar to how Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada would also go, and the kind of discussions that they would have and the emotions and moods that they would exhibit internally. So Gaura Kishor Das Babaji lived extraordinarily simply. He very rarely had any fixed residence at all. He's completely detached. And he would just wander here and there. And externally, he was not an educated person. It's described that he carried a couple of books with him. One of them was Narottam Das Thakur's Partana, so he could certainly read. I mean, he was a merchant. But when they say illiterate, he wasn't educated highly in Sanskrit and grammar and rhetoric and all, like so many others of that time. And yet, he was a profound scholar by his internal realization and he was considered a perfect authority by any of the genuine sadhus and scholars of Sri Navadvip. And if there was a question of Siddhanta, subtle Siddhanta, or conclusions, then he would be consulted. He would be consulted. And sometimes it's described that he would, in his wanderings around, he might be hearing a discourse on the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Saptaha. And if he happened to hear something inappropriate, he would stop and go in and correct it. Right? He had perfect realization because he was a witness and a participant in these pastimes, right? Whereas so many others of us, not me, but others may be great scholars and be able to tell stories and repeat very nicely, but that doesn't qualify you in any way, shape, or form to give genuine discourse. And there are many descriptions how he revealed the difference between the appearance of genuine Vaishnav qualities, right? Vaishnavata, the appearance of it, and one who is actually situated in that, right? And when you read his stories and read his teachings, and then sometimes in this book, references are made to statements made by our Srila Prabhupada, but also many references to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. His stern adherence to these principles, demanding adherence to these principles, comes directly by his own account from his being the student of Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj. And this is also quite extraordinary because before meeting Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, there was always this lamentation, where will he find a genuine guru? And you might think, well, he's the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave him shiksha constantly. And in one sense, he's considered the disciple of Bhaktivinoda Thakur because he absorbed so much from him. We are a line of Bhagavad Parampara, right? Where instruction is as important as Diksha and can actually supersede it. But there's no scholar in the modern day that's considered the equal of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, up, since the time of Jiva Goswami. And yet, he took so much inspiration and developed unflinching faith in Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, who externally appeared to be practically illiterate. But in the words of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, I don't know where it is in this book. I've been going through this book in all kinds of different places, but he has said that in that person of Gaura Kishor Das Babaji, he said that I needed a guru who was perfect. And he said, if I had seen any trace of any anartha, or at any time in his behavior, character, or life of even a moment's deviation from constant absorption and engagement in pure service, I couldn't have accepted him. But in that person alone, I saw all these qualities. And he saw him as a direct representative of Raghunath Das Goswami. He saw Swarup Damodar Goswami in Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he saw in Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Raghunath Das. Right? So, because of their engagement in these times of coming together at the place of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he developed great faith in hearing from him and seeing him, and begged initiation from Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj. He was also recommended by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. But Babaji Maharaj was not inclined to give initiation, just like Lokanath Das, right? I've not come to this world, I'm not accepting disciples. And he wouldn't do it. And despite repeated requests and attempts, and even, Bhakti Vinod Thakur requesting, he wouldn't do it. Finally, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was prepared to give up his life. He said, what is the use of a life where I can't get, if I'm unqualified, I can't get this bona fide guru? And they stopped eating. He stopped eating and drinking. He didn't make a show of it, didn't stand on a bridge and declare it to the world. He just stopped eating. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, seeing this, personally made an appeal to Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj that if you don't, this poor boy will give up his life. So at that time, Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj accepted him. And his disciple, he called his disciple Prabhu. He called his own disciple Prabhu. He considered him so exalted. And just such incredible humility. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada called him Prabhu. He was the life and soul of his life was Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj. This was not just a show bottle initiation, and that his real guru was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Both were there, but his devotion to Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj was absolute and complete. And thus, he wrote all these amazing stories about the pastimes of Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj, and that's what these books are. This beautiful book. I wonder if they've reprinted it. This one's all beat up, and this book is like 35 years old, and the pages are falling out. But there are stories that would take hours and hours, and since I only have 6 more minutes, I'm just
Maharaj,
going.
actually, I started the timer just as you were starting your Mangalacharan, so you have about 9 minutes left.
Okay, 9 minutes. I'll just read a few stories. And when I read them, hear them in a way to understand that his instructions were of a very high, subtle, and rare nature. Our gurus in the modern day are instructing highly unqualified people, and at least me, we're just beginning our devotional practice. And so they're setting the foundation and the groundwork for the practice and the development of a culture that will bring the whole world into bhakti. Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj's instructions are specifically for those people who want to understand the highest and purest practice of bhakti in the Dham, and if you've given up everything else, especially people who wanted to call themselves or be Babajis. And so he would give these extraordinarily, it seems sometimes harsh and fearsome instruction, but it was all for helping us understand how high and rare real bhakti actually is. So let's see. Here's something. Let's see. Okay. Unlawful imitation and wickedness. Remember, this is written by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, now translated. There was no space. Oh, it's preceded by a story about how he demanded to live in a latrine. He was staying at a dharamshala, and he told the couple, they asked, what service can we do for you? And he said, I want to do my bhajan in your latrine, because there I won't be bothered by worldly people. And they couldn't do that. They just, what? Who could do that, right? Imagine if your guru came to you and said, make me a place of bhajan in the bathroom, and not a Western bathroom, an Indian bathroom, a hole in the ground, filthy underneath, smelly in every way. If you've ever been in a traditional Indian latrine, it's just ghastly. So they couldn't accommodate. Finally said, if you want me to be here, if you want any contact with me, you have to do it. They said, oh God, okay, we'll do it. But they took a latrine and they cleaned it totally, redid it, made it spotless, and then he would live in there, right? And later on, this was that same place that Bhakti Keshor Maharaj went to meet with him, but that's another story. But so there was no place in the latrine to accommodate more than one person. Babaji Maharaj used to bolt the door from the inside and chant the holy name of the Lord. Adjoining the privy was a dilapidated chamber. A man named Madhav moved into that room, had the roof repaired with tin, and began to chant in imitation of Babaji Maharaj. One day, Babaji Maharaj called out to him, saying, what are you doing? And what are you contemplating in that room with the door closed? What are you thinking about in your secluded state? He who does not chant the holy name of Hari in the association of devotees, free from offense, is not in a position to see anything but the four walls of a room. Are you seeing the surroundings? Are you thinking about desirable women, fame, or material gain? If you remain in that room, then different kinds of rubbish thoughts will assail you. So you're imitating only, and you're going to be victimized by your own impure mind, saying you're not eligible. Sri Gaura Kishor, although physically blind, then demonstrated his capacity for seeing by disclosing Madhu's hypocrisy. He informed the hypocrite that he was cognizant of all his secret acts, how he had stolen the money and food which was left for Babaji Maharaj by others, and how he had gone to various places in Navadvip to indulge in illicit intercourse with women. Why was he really associating with Babaji Maharaj? This is a very specific, narrow example, but it points out to other people who may associate in the environment of a temple, in an ashram, in an institution, and externally perform the limbs of bhakti, but have separate motives and secretly are also doing illicit activities. Right? So what happened? But this is in the Dham, and those who did that in his association experienced grievous reaction. So then, eventually, this imitator became the victim of a serious disease. He became so ill that after a few days, his friends had to come and carry him away to his house. It has thus been demonstrated how, as a result of offenses committed by the imitation of a Mahabhagavat, one eventually falls down. Imitation of a Mahabhagavat. Do we need to explain that I don't think so. Just contemplate it. He taught, are you accepting? Anyway, think about it. He taught how worldly people, under the pretense of religious activities, experience only the seeming pleasure of sense gratification, which is compared to living in stool. Srila Babaji Maharaj displayed these pastimes with a view to instructing his followers. So this is Saraswati Prabhupada explaining this. Now there's another one, okay? Scholarship. A brahmachari named Ayatra Punya approached Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji and requested him to allow him to perform bhajan in his association. Srila Babaji Maharaj advised him, you should desist from committing offenses at the lotus feet of Vaishnavas and engage yourself in chanting the holy name in the association of pure devotees. The brahmachari heard this instruction, but was disinclined to follow it. Without informing Babaji Maharaj, he went to Radhadesh. That's the place of Ekachakra, where Nityananda was, right? And introduced himself there as a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and begged money, saying that it was for getting instruction in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Upon returning, he began to study grammar with a learned scholar. He thought that if he could become literate, then he would be respected. He considered that because Srila Babaji Maharaj was illiterate, he could not be very advanced. One day, say, oh, I have a PhD. What are you? You didn't even graduate from college. Does this have any connection with real bhakti? One may have a PhD and use it appropriately, but are we doing these things for the appropriate motive, or is it separate? Gurudev used to say, don't bother going to these universities. Go to the University of Haridas Thakur. Get that degree. Right? So one day, he considered that because Srila Babaji Maharaj was illiterate, he could not be very advanced. One day he visited Babaji Maharaj and was told, you are studying grammar, and Babaji Maharaj is speaking this, in order to get women and material position. Hearing this, Ayach replied that he had no such evil desires, but he simply wanted to learn grammar so that he could understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. Reasonable answer. He might have even thought that, because anarthas lying in the mind are very hard to uproot, especially by the person who has them. That's why we need guru. Srila Babaji Maharaj attempted to help him again and told him, "You have been to West Bengal and saw how the reciters of the Puranas make their living by reciting the Bhagavatam. Therefore, you have become greedy and want to fill your begging bowl. If you desire your actual welfare, give up your offensive greed and engage yourself sincerely in worshiping the Lord." The foolish brahmachari once again ignored the good advice of Babaji Maharaj. On yet another occasion, the brahmachari came to Babaji Maharaj and prayed, "Please be merciful to me." Srila Babaji Maharaj was silent for some time, and then he said, "You are thinking of earning your livelihood. Do not try to fulfill your desires in that way." No one present at the time could understand to what Babaji Maharaj referred. When the would-be reciter left, Babaji Maharaj told those present, "He is having illicit intercourse with a widow." He then instructed everyone for their benefit, saying, "Do not persuade others to commit sinful activities. And if desires other than devotional service arise in your minds, please come to me before acting and allow your minds to be changed." By this instruction, Srila Babaji Maharaj indicated that illicit sex is the most abominable and forbidden act. He who externally behaves like a sadhu, but secretly has illicit intercourse, commits an even more heinous sin. And there are many, many stories in here where he describes practicing bhakti while still having those desires, right, in the heart, and not vigorously trying to purify them. And he said, you won't get anywhere until these anarthas are uprooted. So those are just two brief pastimes. If we had time and read more, you would begin to be able to see more and more how his intention was to uproot all of the anarthas, hypocrisy, the demon Bakasura, the hypocrite practicer, the crane standing on one leg, completely quiet, looking like a sadhu, like a yogi, but in the mind thinking, where's a fish? Where's a fish? Secretly looking with its eyes for a fish. And when the opportunity comes, Putana, false guru, being a false guru. So many subtle things, remarkable. So this is his day. When we were in Vrindavan, we would spend hours, and Gurudev would instruct us to hear about these things for many, many hours. We're just tasting them, but pray to Gaura Kishoras Babaji Maharaj, because he is particularly suited and lived to set the example and inspired in the heart of Srila Saraswati Prabhupada and our own Guru Maharaj to write about this concept so that we can understand you can't get to bhakti as long as these things are there. So I was very fortunate to be humbled in the beginning of the talk so that I could, realize that even a pretense of scholarship can be crushed in a moment by the Lord, so that we can actually be humble and pray to become worthy and one-pointed, and anyabhilashita shunya, right? Okay, so I'll stop here. Thank you. Really appreciative of having the opportunity to speak about him. Now I'm going to read this book. I'm going to read this book. I recommend this to anybody. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Sripad Maharaj, for offering your Pushpanjali and sharing some of the glorifications of Srila Gaura Kishoras Babaji. It's very wonderful, beautiful. And even his concluding pastime where he had disappeared, and some of the Babajis had come around, and they were wondering, oh, he wants to be dragged with a bullock cart, tie his feet. He wants to be dragged across the dam, like this. And so the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati came and he stopped them and he, said to them that, oh, similar around this illicit sex thing, how many of you have not had intercourse with a woman in a month, in a week, in a day? And then, all of them put their heads down. And so then Saraswati Thakur, he was able to, perform the Samadhi ceremony in the proper way for the Gosvami Babaji. So thank you so much for glorifying him. And now we're moving on to the Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj, who will glorify to the Bhakti Daiyta Madhav Goswami Maharaj. Okay, Maharaj, your 30 minutes begin. Hare Krishna.
Dandavats, Anuradha, Dandavat pranams, Hare Krishna. Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadare Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. And first of all, offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our most beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And all our divine Rupanuga Guru Varg and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. So thank you, Anuradha, for telling that pastime at the end. I was going to actually say it myself no, this is very good because it's the most famous pastime. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he challenged all those smarters. You want the body. They all wanted the body for their own prosperity, for their mandirs, ultimately. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati so boldly stepped forward and said, no one can touch this body. As you said, and if they've been contaminated in any way for 6 months, and then 3 months, then 2 months, and then there was a policeman standing by, he said, how will you know who's telling the truth and who's not? And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said very loudly, I will know. And they all became intimidated by this. And then he took the body. He said, I am his only disciple. And he took that body and put it in Samadhi. And then later on, Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj had to move that Samadhi to the other side of the Ganga. So as Sripad Vaikhanas Maharaj was saying, there are many, many pastimes connected with Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji. But he certainly gave us a very nice flavor and mood of Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji. And I'm thanking him very much for his presentation tonight. It's very, very enlivening, very good. But today I'm going to speak about Bhakti Daiyta Madhav Maharaj, who personally I wasn't particularly aware of at all until just a few years ago when I came in contact with Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj. And it's only through Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj that I've understood that who this really monumental personality is, this very great stalwart disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. His history is revealed, I'm sure many of you have this beautiful book, Volcanic Energy. And it's describing constantly about his volcanic energy. He was born in a very, very high-class Brahmin family. And his father left this world when he was quite young. So he was basically brought up by his mother. And there's a beautiful description here, just to appreciate what is the nature of good sanskars. There's a description here. Let me just read it. It's very beautiful. His mother was called Savalini Devi, was very devotional and highly inclined to serve sadhus. This is his mother. The nature and quality of Bhakti Daiyta Madhav Maharaj, what he's famous for, what he's known for, is his tremendous generosity, his tremendous mood of Vaishnava Seva. He would be always searching for the Vaishnavas, how he can serve them. Throughout his life, he would support them in so many ways, financially, if they were stressed for that, or with their health, etc., in any sort of way. He was somewhat like the cement between all the different sannyasi godbrothers when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left this world. He didn't have a temple himself initially, and he would go to all the other festivals of all the other sannyasis, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shira Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Birankesha Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vaikhanas Maharaj, so many different personalities, and he would frequent all of their festivals and support them financially. And because he was a very large, imposing personality, he carried natural authority with him. His mood was very charismatic, how it's being described. So he would attract many followers later on when he took that position of guru. He didn't want to take that position, but he took that position. So really the character of Srila Bhakti Dvaita Madhav Maharaj comes through today. This is what I appreciate. There are many instances of his immense seva, but his character, which initially from birth was formed by his mother, of course, and his father, born in a Vaishnava family. So Saivalini Devi was very devotional and highly inclined to serve sadhus. She maintained me, her only son, by residing in the house of her brothers. Because she was a devotee of the Lord, she would always make me listen while she recited from the scriptures and would daily have me memorize a few verses from Bhagavad Gita. As a result, I could recite the entire Bhagavad Gita from memory by the age of 11. Additionally, she would regularly narrate and teach the essential teachings of other scriptures to me, and I thereby learned them by heart. The impression my mother's devotional practices left on my heart became the impetus for me to take up the spiritual path later in life. Taking birth in the home of a devotee is the greatest boon. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Kirtan. This Janmai bo moi icha jadi tora bhakta griha jani janma hoi mora. O Lord, if you desire for me to again take birth in this world, then may I be born in the home of your devotee. So he is an example of this. Nowadays, because of the influence of Kali Yuga, people are uninterested in teaching their children about spiritual matters, and they unfortunately consider such matters to be a waste of time. We must request people, especially the devotees, to train their children in such a manner that they receive a permanent spiritual benefit by developing attachment to Nitya Dharma and one's eternal duty. The heart of a child is like clay, which takes shape according to the potter's expertise. So this example is given in his own life, how much from his childhood he was trained. And throughout his early years, before he even met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was always thoughtful for other people. There are so many examples given where his deep concern for others. As a student, he would collect different books that students needed to study. And he even went to the extent of making a library to invite those students who weren't able to afford particular study books into his home, or he would even send them to the students. He had this mood of sympathy and compassion from birth. This is not something that was acquired by his association with devotees, etc. So we see, obviously, he is coming from another world, ultimately. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was told by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally when he had that darshan, that sakshat darshan, after he'd been chanting his billion names vow, then the Panchatattva manifested, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati inquired at that, how will I serve you in the capacity that you are requesting? I have no men or no money. And then Mahaprabhu's mood was manifesting, saying, I will provide your facilities and I will provide the men that will come to you. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is often known to be quoted, oh, my Mahaprabhu has sent this personality. He would say this about many of his followers. Many of Mahaprabhu's followers, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's followers, were extraordinary luminaries in their own right, like Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridham, like Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, like Srila, like the Madhav himself. Who else? Anuradha, can you think of other people? There are so many.
The Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, the Bhakti Sripad Maharaj, our Srila
Yes.
Prabhupada, the Bhakti
Yes.
Pramod Puri Maharaj.
Yes, our Srila Prabhupada, also Srila Pramod Puriman, all of these persons, so many personalities. And amongst all of these personalities, when the Gaudiya Mat fractured, and due to their discord between Ananta Vasudev and Kunjabi Hari, then the home that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had made for all his followers fractured and broke. And many of those followers, they left their traditional home of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the Bagh Bazar Mutt in Calcutta, and they formed their own mutts. And there's a very interesting, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, because there's so many teachings here about his mood and his characteristic of giving to the devotees, serving the devotees. This mood was imbibed by Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj. I've met many of Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj's disciples now today. They also carry the same mood of Vaishnava Seva. Each personality in our line, they carry unique individual gifts to the world. Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, for example, has told us specifically to honor the Vaishnavas on their Tirabhava and Abhibhav days, their appearance days. And this will increase our bhakti and give us knowledge of these individual personalities. This is why today we are celebrating his appearance day, because Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj has guided us in this regard, that we should take seriously these Abhirbhavs and Tirabhav days. Practically every week, there are 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 personalities we can celebrate. And it gives us, as practicing sadhaks, a great excuse, a great reason to glorify these personalities. And if we don't know so much about these personalities, then we can, on that particular day, like today, we can find out more about their natures and characteristics. So Srila Bhakti Dvaita Madhav was so favorable to all the Vaishnavas. When the Gaudiya Mat fractured and all these different personalities went in their separate ways, he was circulating amongst all of them and attending all their individual festivals, etc. And he was keeping that association alive by his involvement. So this is a photo of Bhakti Dvaita Madhav Maharaj is on our left, the taller person, and on the right is Bhakti Vaikhanas Maharaj, who is his sannyas guru. This was the guru that he chose, requested to please bestow this sannyas ashram on him. Initially, he didn't want to take sannyas. He was by nature the embodiment of this Trinada Pi Sunichena. By nature, he was like that. Even though he had all these illustrious qualities, but by nature, he wasn't pushing himself forward in that capacity. And eventually he had to be requested by many of his godbrothers repeatedly to take this sannyas ashram, which eventually he did. And then again, he was requested to, yes, this is him on the left, you can see the taller person, yes. And very imposing personality, and very dynamic, very charismatic. And as a consequence of this, actually, even amongst his own godbrothers, there was envy, because there's the pastime that Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj relates about Kunjabi Hari, who became Bhakti-Vilas Tirtha Maharaj. And Bhakti-Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, I'm not sure who this is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm not talking about them. But Bhakti-Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, yes, this is, requested him, it's described in this book, that when they were holding the initiation festivals, that Bhakti-Vilas Tirtha Maharaj was residing in the yoga pit. So he requested he was residing in the Chaitanya Mat. And then he requested Srila Daiyta Madhav Maharaj to please perform his initiations in the yoga pit. And then they be saying that so many people came to his initiations. So then he requested him, actually, he should perform his initiations in Srivas Angam, even in a smaller place. And then he was gradually being pushed out by the other sannyasis because they could see by his power of his teachings, etc., he was attracting so many young men. And this rippled their egos, whatever. But this is what is described in the history here. So this is always what happens, just like with Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, when he made such an impression in the Western world, he had his own god brothers who became somewhat envious of his remarkable, miraculous success. They couldn't tolerate. So it's very interesting in comparison to the teachings we're hearing about Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj today, simultaneously, that his reverence to humility and to be expelling any idea of pratishta from our focus and hearts. And in his own life, Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj exemplified this. And Srila Bhakti-Daiyta Madhav Maharaj, he also exemplified this mood. He was like of the other side of the scale, so to speak, someone who was very attractive. Like Srila Gaura Kishor Das Babaji Maharaj was very simple in his bhajan. Sometimes he would even just live under a boat. He would do anything, or live in a latrine, we've heard, to dispel people away from him. But Srila Daiyta Madhav Maharaj, he was actually attracting so many people. So this is him in the center we see here. But there's a pastime here connected with this, which I want to describe, that I think is very instructive for us today, about when the Gaudiya Math actually did fracture. So he gives a very wonderful perspective. And basically, he's saying, I don't think I have to read it, I can just reiterate it. He's saying that everything is Krishna's arrangement, because many of the Vaishnavas, the sannyasis at that time, the senior devotees, they were commiserating that, oh, our great society that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has erected with his life's blood is now all disintegrating. But Srila Bhakti-Daiyta Madhav Maharaj, he didn't have that impression at all. He was saying that actually everything is by divine arrangement. This is by Krishna's arrangement, that all the senior men are now making their own mats. They're making their own places. They're propagating their individual unique qualities in their own areas and making their own disciples. So this is a good thing. This is spreading the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a much broader way. It's not isolating them to one particular following or one particular mat or one particular person. It's giving an opportunity to so many. It's like today, for example, if we look across the Ganga from Navadvip, we see so many mats going up the other side. All of these mats all have their own acharyas, their own followers, etc. They're all teaching the same message of Mahaprabhu, but in their own individual ways, which will give the sadhak more scope to be attracted to their particular unique way. You understand? It like just gives us more scope. It's not a negative thing at all. Personally, I appreciated this point very much when our own Sangha Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj's Sangha began to break up a few years ago, I also had this same feeling. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj was also a greatly powerful personality and attracted many charismatic, powerful preachers to his flag. And those powerful preachers should have their own spaces to preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It doesn't all have to come under the one banner or the one institution or the one flag, so to speak. Personally, I feel that it's very successful the way Krishna and Mahaprabhu are orchestrating this. But now today, many of these personalities, they have their own mutts or they're developing their own mutts, and it will go on to fragment like that so that more people will have space to actually choose their particular unique personality that they want to follow. It doesn't have to all sit under the teachings, always sit under the one umbrella, but the personalities who propagate those teachings don't have to. So Srila Bhakti Madhav Maharaj, he explained like this to all these sannyasis. And Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, he comments on this. He says, in this regard, I have first-hand experience. Srila Prabhupada had sent Pujapad Madhav Maharaj, then known as Hayagriva Brahmachari. Oh no, so sorry, that's it. Yes. So this vision that Srila Madhav Maharaj was always positive. His whole nature was positive. Even though his Guru Maharaj's apparent institution was collapsing, he was feeling very positive about that and encouraging all the different sannyasis to that end, that they should feel empowered in their own separate situations to continue the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But there's many examples of how Srila Madhav Maharaj is described as that having that volcanic energy. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he describes, he says, Srila Prabhupada used to describe Pujapad Madhav Maharaj as having volcanic energy. The apparent endpoint of our attempts to serve Srila Prabhupada was for him a beginning point of fresh endeavors. My personal opinion, this is Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj describing, my personal opinion is that he is comparable to none other than Srila Vakreshwar Pandit, an associate of Sriman Mahaprabhu, who could dance continuously during kirtan for 72 hours without becoming fatigued. So he's describing Srila Bhakti Madhav Maharaj he's comparing him to Vakreshwar Pandit, because Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, who's sitting here in the picture behind the microphone, and next to him is Bhakti Madhav Maharaj at a program. And Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj describes they were sent to, I think it was Madras. No, they were sent to the place of Rai Ramananda Sangvad on the Godavari River. They were sent here to acquire a property for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footprints to be installed. And he was sent with Daiyta Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. The two of them were sent to find some land, to buy some. They searched solidly for 3 days. They combed the area, searching for a piece of property where they could erect the memorial with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet there. And after 3 days of struggling very hard to acquire this property, they couldn't. And Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he suggested to Bhakti Madhav Maharaj, I think we have searched exhaustively now, and we can't find a piece of property that is suitable for our budget and suitable for what we actually need. I think we should actually go on to Madras now and continue our preaching program. But Bhakti Madhav Maharaj, he said, no, we should give this a few more days. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he's ordered us to do this project. So they searched again diligently for 3 or 4 more days. And then they came up with the perfect property, the perfect location. They managed to purchase it. And today, even there is a temple in this place. A Gaudiya Math is there now flourishing. And this was due to the enthusiasm of Srila Bhakti Madhav. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would also describe him as having this volcanic energy. Whenever he had completed one task that he was designated to achieve, he would immediately return to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who even within the first 5 or 10 minutes of their meeting again, and his congratulating him on completing that one project, he would initiate another project to him. When he returned from this Godavari project, he said straight away, now you have to go to Mathura and begin to prepare for our Brajamandal Prikrama. Every project that Srila Bhakti Maharaj was designated to perform, he completed successfully with great effort and energy. And he was very good at collecting funds for the Math. He had no problem in collecting because he was from such a high-class Brahmin family. He was used to material facilities coming easily, and people would respect him and honor him. And it was very easy for him to collect the funds. He actually collected practically all the funds in Jagannath Puri for our temple there. Between the Jagannath temple and the Gundicha, we have our Gaudiya Math there, a very large Gaudiya Math that Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj himself actually built a lot of that when he was serving his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Dvaita Maharaj. And it was the finances that Srila Bhakti Dvaita Maharaj was able to raise that manifested, because that was the original house of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and they acquired that property, and then they turned it into a flourishing math on the energy of Srila Bhakti Dvaita Maharaj. He would come to many of his godbrothers' maths where they were struggling, and he would fund them, and he would send men to them to help them to construct their individual maths, etc. This mood of always supporting the Vaishnavas, it's described that actually when he was leaving this world, the Sevaks, his disciples, were trying to stop his energetic service and telling him he should slow down now. Now the doctors had ordered him he should rest more, he shouldn't do so much service. And he responded at that time, I have been given a material body for only one purpose, and that is to serve my Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I will serve him till my dying breath. I have no need for this comfort, for this old age as a patient, as the doctors are ordering me to do, etc. I will serve to my dying breath. We see the same example of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He was translating right up to the very point of his leaving this world. So these types of devotees, they're a whole separate generation, I feel, to what we have today. These devotees were inspired by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to dedicate their entire existence to the service of their Guru Maharaj and to the service of spreading the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the caliber of these devotees. And it seemed to sort of end when Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj left this world himself. The devotees today, of course, are very enthusiastic and so on, but the degree and the capacity, that last picture is very beautiful that we have. These Pramod Puri Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Dvaita Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Rakshatrita Maharaj. They created a formidable atmosphere of potency in their preaching to the intelligent class of Brahmins in particular, and all classes of people in the world. So very, very high-class devotees. This is the first time in my life that I've been given an opportunity to actually speak on Srila Bhakti Vaikhanasa Maharaj. My familiarity with him is not very much, but I'm learning today in particular, reading this book and coming to appreciate the compassion and heart of this great magnanimous personality. I'm thinking that perhaps Sripad Vaikhanas Maharaj might have some words, or even Anuradha, you might have some more words to say about Srila Bhakti Vaikhanasa Maharaj in his glorification. If you have, please say any words at this point. You can speak. If you know more histories. You're muted.
Well,
oh, here he is.
I know you know many, many histories. It's just that time doesn't allow. You could go on and on and on, especially from that book.
The book is
But
filled.
Now, can recount one thing in reading those books and his history, which really affected me about his humility. And well, actually, they're interconnected. One real quick, you were talking about his mood of service to his godbrothers. You know, our Srila Prabhupada was having great difficulty in acquiring land in Mayapur because the communist government would work with the local farmers and intimidate them not to sell land to Srila Prabhupada. They didn't want this. And this was like, I guess, 70s, late 60s, early 70s. He was trying so hard, couldn't get land. So Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj conveyed this to Srila Madhav Maharaj, that, Swami Maharaj is having so much difficulty getting land. Perhaps you could help him. Because as you said, he was very expert in raising money and cutting through red tape, acquiring land. He did it at the Godavari. Later, he was going to do it in Puri. But Madhav Maharaj was a little piqued because our Srila Prabhupada, he could speak harshly about some of his godbrothers, and he often spoke about how they weren't cooperating for the international preaching mission, right? Oh, they're just ringing bells in the temple. And to Madhav Maharaj, that was painful. It's pinching, right? Because as you said, he was a very active, energetic preacher, had opened up so many temples himself. And he conveyed that to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Oh, he says we're just ringing bells. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, oh, but Swamiji's worldwide Sankirtan movement, right? To ring the bell in that grand assembly would be so great a thing, right? And as soon as he heard that, Madhav Maharaj, his heart immediately softened. And his whole mood, he changed. He said, oh, okay, I'll help him. And by his efforts, they were able to acquire that first land, right? So even though there was some disagreement, and that's going to happen in any family, his heart was so full and his depth of devotion to the mission of Saraswati Prabhupada, and he realized, oh, this must be done. And so he took it upon himself and cleared those obstacles, and thus we were able to get that land in Mayapur, which was the beginning of Srila Prabhupada's efforts there. And there's a story that one time, I can't remember what city it was, but there was a program to be held with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was going to come. And I think they may be the installation of deities of this temple, but anyway, it was a big festival. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Daiyta Madhav Maharaj, they arrived there about a week in advance. And maybe you read this story. And when they got there, the temple president was really disturbed, the commander, mock commander. And he said, Guru Maharaj has instructed this one brahmachari to take charge of this organization of the festival, and he hasn't done anything. And now there's only a week to go, and no arrangements have been made. It was going to be a big festival, and in those festivals, you got pandals and arrange for cooking and food and places for the guests and all the deity service that had to be done. And he said, now there's only a week, it's going to be a disaster. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, don't worry, I will take charge of the deity seva side of it. And Hayagriva, who's brahmachari at that time, will arrange for the prasadam, the cooking, and for the guests, all of that. And they did that, and within a week, everything was arranged, and the festival went perfectly smoothly. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was very happy. And he praised all the devotees in the temple. But the temple president was upset. He said, oh, this brahmachari didn't do anything. He's been praised. Saraswati Prabhupada praised everybody. He should know that this brahmachari is derelict in his duty so that Guru Maharaj can chastise him for his own welfare. And Daiyta Maharaj, Bhakti Daiyta Maharaj, he didn't want to do it. He said, no, you should go and speak to him. And he kept harassing him for over many days. You should tell him. Finally, he agreed. So he went to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, and he told him the story of how the festival actually happened. And Saraswati Prabhupada said, why are you complaining? This is all your service. In Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani does all service. She does everything. If someone wants to come and help her, she'll let them. Otherwise, she does everything herself, and she's very happy to do this. You should also think in the same way. You begin this service, what do you care who did or did not? You accomplished it very wonderfully, and it's all your service. So years later, when when the godbrothers came to him and requested him to acquire the property that had previously belonged to Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Puri, right? What is it? Grand Avenue, Grand Road. And in Puri, the land mafia is really brutal, very difficult to deal with. And they said, you please somehow or other acquire this property, and then we will help you in building the temple. We'll all help. We'll all help contribute. So with great difficulty, he did acquire the property. And when they were doing the initial excavation, when they dug up, it began to smell like flowers and beautiful fragrance. And they found a deity, and so many signs, of that place. It's where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was born. So they wanted that. And then over many years, he built this magnificent structure. We've stayed in that. It's a beautiful temple, very well made, in the style. He had a certain style. He liked to make them out of those kind of granite rocks. There's one in Hyderabad like that also that we visited. Bhaktivinoda Bharati Maharaj was involved in that. He was always involved in the construction of temples. He was very good at that. Anyway, they built it, and none of the godbrothers contributed any money or help. Right? But at the end of it, he didn't complain at all. What he said was, in the mood of what Saraswati Prabhupada had told him, my godbrothers, and this is his heartfelt feeling, my godbrothers are very merciful. They could have taken up so much of the service, but they allowed me to have it all. So no resentment, no feeling that he'd been let down. My godbrothers are so merciful to me that even though they could have helped, they let me have the entire service. I'm so indebted to them. So on both sides, if they needed help, he would give it unflinchingly, without any consideration. And if he was given a service and no one helped, he felt grateful that they could have, but they knew that, I would be happier and to take the whole service myself. He never criticized. He had this magnanimous mood of, generosity and humility. Anyway, just a couple little points about
there's a very beautiful quote on the back of this. Thank you, Maharaj. Really love that. He says, Sri Vishnu and the Vaishnavas are the only objects of our service. If I am able to serve only one of the two, then I will choose to serve the Vaishnavas, even if I have to take out loans to do so. If I happen to leave the world before repaying the loans I had taken to serve the Vaishnavas, then I will happily take birth again to repay them and enthusiastically take on even more loans in order to remain in their eternal service. My constant prayer is that I may eternally maintain this consciousness without deviation. Even he has to come back and repay the loans again and again. He's happy to do that. Same mood as what you're just relating now. The same mood. His life was one of magnanimity. He was constantly giving, constantly serving the Vaishnavas. And that legacy continues today with the followers, I've noticed, of Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj. I've met many of his followers, and they have that same mood of, we want to serve you personally, Vaishnavas. They want to serve the Vaishnavas. They're not looking to, they are serving the populace, of course, humanity, but they're particularly focused, and they've got their ears open to any service to the Vaishnavas they can possibly render. It's very wonderful because it's unique. You know, it's tangible. We see it. It's I appreciate it very much indeed. So I think our time is pretty much over. You're muted, Maharaj. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
One symptom, because we had the opportunity to associate with Bhakti Balabhatirtha Maharaj, Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj. When you were in their company, or in that mutt in Puri, or in the one in Hyderabad, or wherever they were, you always felt extremely comfortable and welcomed. You always felt welcomed and comfortable. I mean, you could say loved. You know, they always, gave off this mood of affection towards Vaishnavas, towards anyone, you know.
There's the story of Gurudev when maybe Anuradha remembers the story when Gurudev was Srila Bharati Maharaj wanted Gurudev to come to his festival. I think it was in Bangalore or Madras. I'm not even sure which place it was in, but he wasn't very well, and they weren't sure of any sort of accommodation he would have in that temple. So Srila Bharati Maharaj assured him that he would have a very good room. And Srila Bharati Maharaj, he left early for that festival place before Srila Gurudev arrived, and he emptied his own personal room. He took all his own contents out and put them in another room because he knew Srila, my Gurudev, Narayan Goswami Maharaj, would object if he thought he was emptying his own room. And then he gave him his own quarters with hot water and this and that and the other. So it's like you're saying, become fully supported by the service of the devotees for their guests, etc. So Srila Bharati, Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, he did this to our Gurudev. He gave him that tremendous. I can remember one time personally in Jammu, we went with Srila Gurudev to Jammu, and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj was there at the same time. And this was when Srila Bhakti, this was probably in the mid-90s, perhaps 96, 97, 98, something like that. And Srila Bharati Maharaj was there with a group of about 6 or 7 senior devotees. And we saw their camping condition. They were in a single room, and they were all lined up, all these beds with all these mosquito nets over them, right next to each other. And these were older devotees. All of them were in their 60s, coming on 70s at that time. And they were all living in such sort of an austere situation. But I remember seeing that and just appreciating the surrender and submissiveness of these Vaishnavas to the material inconvenience that they must have been going through in Chandigarh. And he also had a place in Chandigarh. But this was in Jammu in the north, Kashmir, Jammu. Yeah, very inspiring.
Thank you both. I thank you both, Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaji and Sripad Bhaktivedanta Vaikhanas Maharaji, for such a beautiful glorification of both Srila Gaura Kishor Babaji and also my Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Daiyta Madhav Goswami Maharaj. I'm even recalling that at one point when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was inquiring who to send to the West, and Srila Bhakti Daiyta Madhav Maharaj's name came up, and some of the disciples said that, that he or he gathers so much money that please do not send him, because otherwise we will not have any funds. And then also, I think someone had commented that, oh, because he is also so very good looking, that all these women would come and maybe disturb him in the West, so that it's not appropriate to send him. I am even also recalling.
Live. Oops, I accidentally muted it.
Sorry, just if you may have unmuted, then just please mute again. But I'm recalling how Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj, one time that Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj's godbrothers were coming to the mutt, and that he gave Srila Param Gurudev gave the instruction to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Maharaj that when my godbrothers come, then treat them just as good as you treat me, that see them as no different than you see me. And that actually, it's a really beautiful instruction, even, for all of us, simply because, sometimes we have the party spirit mood, oh, this is not my Gurudev, this is my Gurudev's godbrother, but still not my Gurudev. So I will not, there's not proper respect, not proper honor. But this was something very, very prominent in the life of Srila Guru Maharaj, that he served so many of the godbrothers of Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj, and so and he treated them all like his own Gurudev, and thus we all are aspiring to try to do like this, to try to serve Srila Gurudev, Srila Guru Maharaj, and all of our Guru Parampara and all of our Sannyasigan, all of the Vaishnavas in this way, and seeing no difference in a non-sectarian mood. And I'm not really aware of possibly how many disciples are left, but of the prominent disciples, we have obviously who have left in the same year, Srila Bhakti Vallabha Maharaj and also Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Maharaj. However, still residing is Srila Anirudh Babaji, and he is in Rajasthan, and he just at the very start of Kartik, he just celebrated his centennial year. So he is now 100. So we're very, very fortunate to still have him, a representative of Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj. So, so anyhow, thank you both so much for your beautiful glorifications. And just to close the closing kirtan, Damayanti Didi, could you please unmute? And just before Didi sings, tomorrow's day 27. Again, we're continuing on in our virtual parikrama, and we're entering into the concluding days. So please, everyone, come back tomorrow. And
Varshana tomorrow.
Huh?
Varshana tomorrow.
Going to Varshana.
Is it Varshana tomorrow or a rest day? I think it's Varshana tomorrow.
I think it's Varshana, and then the rest day after.
And we have 4 sannyasis speaking.
Oh, wow, yes.
Ashram Maharaj will be speaking, and Vaikhanas Maharaj, I'll be speaking. So tomorrow, Varshana.
I think Mahavadi Prabhuji wants to say. Oh,
Yes, I'm
sorry, Prabhuji, go ahead.
No, you finish. I just have my only one point. I wanted to afterward maybe say something. Tridandi Maharaj said something of what Gurudev's desire was, and then I wanted to, give another viewpoint from which Gurudev told me, but it's not part of the glorification. So I'd be willing to do it afterwards. That's all. Haribo.
Okay. Yes, of course. The only thing I was going to just add is that that our Srila Prabhupada also sent a couple of his disciples to have association with Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj, and I believe he's not on, but he has been on Bhaktizoom in the past, and that's Srimana Chittanandan Prabhu, who had a few instances of having some darshan with Srila Bhakti Daita Maharaj. So maybe one day we can hear from him also. So Damayanti Didi, if you can close out the kirtan, and then we will afterwards I'll end the Zoom, or sorry, not the Zoom, end the live stream, and then we can hear from Sriman Madhav Babaji. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Well, can I request something?
Haribo, I'm sorry, who is this?
Yeah, I'm listening for the Harikata today, but although I'm not so familiar with your previous, my previous pure pure devotee, but today that I learned something about that. All is the behavior and how to serve to the law or follow for the guru instruction. And then one point is that he was teaching us is a very
Didi?
important is the safe and wood, right?
Mataji, if you have any question, I want to just conclude with the kirtan, and then I'll end the live stream, and then I'll open it
No
up
problem.
for. Okay, we will. Damayanti Didi?
Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranams Tridandi Maharaj. Dandavat pranams to all the devotees. I am Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhika Pratmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Shri Guru Prishtai Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Madhava Iti Namine Gurave Gaurachandrai Radhika Tadalaya Krishna Krishna Bhakta Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. I'm going to sing Shuddha Bhakata on page 216. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakata Seva Paramasiri Premalati Karamula Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani Jatani Palana Kori Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani Jatani Palana Kori Krishna Vasati Vasati Boli Parama Adare Bari Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Gaura Amara Jisabastane Karala Brahmana Range Gaura Amara Jisabastane Karala Brahmana Range Se Sabastana Hiribo Ami Pranai Bhagata Sange Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Mridanga Bhadya Sunite Mana Avasara Sadajache Mridanga Bhadya Sunite Mana Avasara Sadajache Gorahim Gorahe Goravito Kirtana Suni Anande Hridayanache Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Yugalamurti Deki Amora Paramanandaya Yugalamurti Deki Amora Paramanandaya Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Prasada Seva Korite Hoya, Sakala Prapancha Jaya, Prasada Seva Korite Hoya, Sakala Prapancha Jaya, Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Jedina Gruhe Bhajana Deki Gruhite Golokabaya Jedina Gruhe Bhajana Deki Gruhite Golokabaya Charana Sidhu Nekiya Ganga Sukhana Sima Paya Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Tulasi Deki Judaya Prana Madhava Toshani Jani Tulasi Deki Judaya Prana Madhava Toshani Jani Jaya Vinde Jaya Jaya Vinde Gaura Priya Saka Sevane Jivana Satakamani Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Bhakati Vinora Krishna Bhajane Anukula Payaja Bhakati Vinora Krishna Bhajane Anukula Payaja Prabhu Hai Prabhu Hai Prati Divase Paramasuke Svikara Karayata Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu Bhajana Anukula Jaya Madhavatiti Jaya Ekadasi Madhavatiti Jaya Ekadasi Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol